Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to session 6. Don't you know it? The bureaucracy murders innovation. In this session, we're going to explore why is it that the big billion-dollar companies can't innovate? Why is it that they can't fight back against the small little disruptors who run rings around them and end up killing them? How is that possible? Because the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make any sense at all. How can a company like Nokia, that has billions of dollars, has all the customers and top talent in the world, it's global in size, it has contracts galore, it has all the latest technology, and they still stuff it up and die? How is that even possible, right? That's really a crazy thing to happen, and yet it did. And it's so crazy that in fact the CEO of Nokia, the former CEO, can't even understand it himself, because he said, we didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost. And what's really interesting to do is to start digging into why Nokia died, because a few secrets start to emerge. The first thing that starts to emerge is that Nokia had a working iPhone prototype 2005 and 2006. Can you believe it? So the issue is not that they couldn't create the innovation. The challenge is that they couldn't bring the innovation to the market. And the reason they couldn't bring the innovation to the market is because the senior leadership decided not to bring it to the market. Why would you decide to do that? That doesn't, again, make much sense. It's because Nokia was one giant bureaucracy. And what we're going to learn is this. Bureaucracies exist to systematically destroy innovation. The reason we invented bureaucracies is so that we could run our factories efficiently. And what you want in a factory is everyone to do the same thing again and again and again as efficiently as possible. What you do not want to happen in a factory is everyone to start creating their own ideas and doing their own thing, because it's going to stuff up the whole manufacturing process. And what we've done is replicate that manufacturing control system, the bureaucracy, and taken it into our organization. So what we have is a company which is running on a bureaucracy, which is essentially the operating system. And the objective of the bureaucracy is to maximize efficiency, stability, and control. Basically, maximize profit, keep things as stable as possible, and if there's a problem, use high degrees of control top down to tell people what to do. This is great for the industrial age. It's terrible for the innovation age. Innovation requires exploration, it requires creativity, it requires freedom. And so what that means is if you're running a bureaucracy, you're going to systematically destroy innovation at every level of the organization. And those of you who have any experience in the corporate world will know exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, we can use an analogy here. The bureaucracy essentially works like a giant freezer. It's designed to suck out energy, it's designed to cool things down and keep things exactly the same as what they are meant to be. Whereas innovation is all about heating things up, adding energy, creating change. Trying to innovate in a bureaucracy is like trying to light a fire in the Antarctic. It's never going to happen because it's far too cold and there's no resources to actually make the fire happen. So as a result of running bureaucracy, organizations are overmanaged, underled, zero innovation capability. So how does this kill Nokia? Well, there's 3 sins here that we call them the 3 reality dysfunctions of the bureaucracy: arrogance, ignorance, and complacency. The first thing that a bureaucracy creates is arrogance. Because the thing is, Nokia was doing really, really well. And so because it's doing so well and has this really efficient bureaucracy in place, it's going to keep doing well, or so it believes. And so it doesn't need to pay any attention at all to all these pesky little startups and random companies called Apple. What do they know about making phones? They've never made a phone in their life. So as a result, Nokia was very arrogant in the threats that were posed by Apple and also by the Android operating system, especially Samsung. And so what we can see here is that the first dysfunction of the bureaucracy is arrogance. The second dysfunction of the bureaucracy is ignorance. Now what this means is that you're not paying any attention at all to the changing markets, trends, and innovations. In fact, at most large organizations, you're too busy fighting the internal politics and trying to get budget approvals for what you want to do. You don't really know what's going on with the customer. You don't really know what's going on in terms of the big macro trends. And through my work as a professional innovation consultant, always surprised me at how little people in big companies actually know what's going on outside of their little bubble. They're highly tuned to the political games of the internal reality, but actually what's going to kill them is the changes in the marketplace. In Nokia, people were too busy getting approvals and fighting about which small upgrade to make to the Symbian system, rather than really paying attention to the big trends in terms of Gen Y consumers coming through, around new kinds of technologies coming through, for example, in terms of touchscreens. The third thing that kills you in terms of the reality of the dysfunction of the bureaucracy is complacency. If you believe that you have plenty of time to cope with things in a VUCA reality that we exist in today, then there is far too much complacency. Large incumbents think that they can have the time to figure things out when actually they really don't. As we have seen in the last session with the exponential growth curves that disruptors can achieve today, it's very, very, very fast and very, very, very dangerous. You don't have time for your next budget cycle. You don't have time to fit it into your next 5-year plan because you might be dead by then. And so what you need to do is break through these reality dysfunctions. We need to break through the arrogance, ignorance, and complacency to create a whole new operating system for an organization. What we need to do is transition from what's called the bureaucracy to the innovation ecosystem. And there's 3 specific things we need to shift. First, we need to move from prioritizing efficiency to prioritizing creativity. What this means is that we're no longer just obsessively trying to maximize profit. We're still trying to make a profit, but we're also reinvesting our profits into being more creative and upgrading our innovations. Apple made a lot of profit, but it also was able to upgrade its iPhones. We have to move stability to speed. We're not going to get everything right. So instead of trying to build the perfect innovation and making sure everything is very stable in terms of the customer and the marketplace, we will focus on speed of response. And then finally, instead of prioritizing control, we prioritize freedom. We trust our people to go out there and create. The truth is that the big companies that we know of today who've been very successful in the 21st century, Google, Amazon, Tesla, many, many more, have all been successful because they have transitioned from a bureaucracy to an innovation ecosystem operating environment. So in summary, what we need to do is we need to stop trying to innovate in bureaucracies because it's just not going to happen. It's physically impossible. And instead, we need to start creating exciting innovation ecosystems where people have the opportunity to prioritize creativity, work quickly, and have the freedom to decide what to do and when.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to session 6, The Bureaucracy Murders Innovation. And what is this session all about? It's the basic insight that we all already know anyway, that the bureaucracy exists to obliterate any innovation efforts in an organization. A bureaucracy is essentially anti-innovation. And that's not to say it's a good or a bad thing, it's just to recognize the purpose of a bureaucracy is to make sure we do the same thing more efficiently. It doesn't want you to try new things, and it certainly doesn't want you to try risky new things. So how does this affect our growth chart? Well, as always, we start with our classic S-curve. And in the last session, we understood that what we need to try and do is stack the S-curves. We need to keep upgrading the innovation to get better and better and better. But what a bureaucracy basically does is it says, no, you're not going to go for that risky exponential growth. You're going to stay on this path and you're going to keep doing the same thing better and better and better. And so you remove the opportunity for growth because the bureaucracy is only saying, take the safe route. And this is why organizations struggle to innovate. And of course, as we said in the session, it's about being too arrogant. And part of the arrogance is saying, this is what we do. This is the way to make things happen. We know what's best. This is what Nokia and BlackBerry said about Apple. Their smartphone's not going to work because we know what it takes. So the arrogance creates an artificial ceiling of what the company believes is possible. The second thing is that they're ignorant of the opportunities and the disruptors that are out there. Out here, there are all these disruptors trying to attack the market and trigger these growth curves, and yet the incumbent is not aware of them because the bureaucracy is so internally facing. It's more concerned with approving its own ideas than paying attention to what the disruptors are doing in the market. And then finally, of course, was complacency. And what this basically means is as the bureaucracy ticks along, it's saying, oh, we've got time, next budget cycle, next year, we'll think about doing something. And so while the bureaucracy is ticking along in a very slow and complacent way, the disruptors are aggressively trying to grow quickly. And so this, ladies and gentlemen, is why the bureaucracy kills innovation. It causes you to remain trapped in the same paradigm, and that is why you can't unleash exponential growth. So my question to you is this: are you trapped in a bureaucracy? Are you maybe being too arrogant, too ignorant, or too complacent of what is really happening out there? And how can you start to change that?